Thank you guys for continuing. We are on skill number 2. Now, I think you know this, but one of my undergraduate degrees was in religion. And so in religion, you learn a lot about anthropology and sociology. And one of the things that I was really fascinated by is when you study ancient religions, most religions tell and capture history through story. And what happened when we all got LinkedIn and resumes is that we started talking about our past in terms of bullet points. It's not memorable. So Diana Sidlowskis and I created something called the warrior story. Now that sounds so awesome, but it follows the trajectory of the narrative arc of your life. So why is this important? Number one, because every time you connect with an investor, a customer, potential employer, partner, you want to be memorable. Number one, you want that story to be so connective that they never forget that story. And so it must follow a narrative arc. Number two, you want your story to be relevant. It has to talk to the inside of that person in such a way that they not only remember it, but they connect to it. And number three, it needs to be aspirational. So often, we tell stories that have a couple of elements. They're sad, they're what we remember and what we think is relevant and important to someone. And they're not that interesting and they're boring and you never remember what company someone worked at. Have you ever had someone tell you their quick story and it takes half the meeting? No, that's not what we're doing here. You want that story to be memorable, relevant to the person to whom you're presenting, and aspirational. Aspire, meaning that it actually looks to the future. And here's why. Joseph Campbell wrote a lot, if you guys know who that is, famous author, religious studies, anthropology, and sociology, and he wrote a lot about the hero's journey. We are on that journey today, right now. And so what the warrior story does is it actually tells an authentic story without pitching, because you know what? No one wants to be sold. So let's talk about what the memorable, relevant, and aspirational story looks like. And if anything on that board is misspelled, don't even bring it up here because we're doing our best. So let me talk to you about the warrior story and actually show you what that looks like. So it starts where most stories start, which is, who were you? That could be at the beginning of your journey. That could be at the beginning of your career. It could be at some critical juncture or some other point in your life where it's relevant and critical to your business today. Number one. So this is about knowing your audience, but really it's actually more thematic. And then you talk about an event that had a significant impact on your life. One example is you grew up in a family, you're the youngest of 4 children, you were the rebel of that family, you were growing, you were running $1 million, 7-figure company at some point when you were in your early 20s, and someone deceived you or something really interesting happened and you lost your business and you lost your hair. Let's say, for example, there's someone who actually has the story, and it changed everything for you. Now, in that moment, you became a different person. You became a person who was more resilient. You became a person who had a different vision. You became a person who chose your partners and your relationships differently. That culmination of that event fundamentally changed who you were as an entrepreneur, as a person, as a business person. And so we talk about that moment in time, and I gotta tell you, every person you ever talk to, any business partner, any coach, any investor, any banker is going to have a story in their life that they will tell you at this stage. You slow down. Who was I before? What's my background? What was that event that changed everything for me? What did I learn? What are the big 3 takeaways from that story? And then I want to talk to you about who you are today as a result of that. Today, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm resilient. I go into situations with a level of focus and intensity. I take my relationships differently. I work with people over multiple years. I cultivate relationships differently. I align with different people. I have become someone else. I look and act and show up in a way that is bigger and has learned and is more strategic than I've ever been. And then you talk about the future, what you are creating. And so why does this matter? Because no one's going to remember your resume. No one ever remembers your resume. And if something's not memorable and not relevant or aspirational, it's forgotten. And so what I want you to think about is telling your warrior story in a way that actually builds a bridge, a narrative bridge. Here's the arc of your story, and here's the bridge. This is when you actually bring that person into your story. This is when you actually build that bond. You talk about your background, you give people interesting context, that's quick. And then you talk about an event that changed everything for you. This is so important. Make it emotional, because being an entrepreneur is a spiritual exercise. We all know this. Something happened to you that made you who you are. What did you get from that? That's where the arc starts to be connected. Who are you today? You stand in pride. I'm an entrepreneur. I run 4 businesses. I have this aspiration. I bring tons of energy, different kinds of relationships, resilience, fun, playfulness into what I do. This is who I've become. And between these 2 points, that person's going to tell you their warrior story. I gotta tell you guys, it's addictive. So if you do this well and you pause, they'll say, let me share one time, God, I can relate to that. And then you draw them in. And from that draw in, you then talk about your future, and then you build them into that future. Whether it be, it's an employee who now gets to see their future in the company. It's an investor who now gets to see their money in the company and how that's going to enable their dreams. Whether it's your life partner and you're telling them your story and you're focusing on who you are today and the future because you want their emotional buy-in and support. The warrior story is such a powerful tool of authenticity and creation and co-creation, because really the most important part of the story, it's not your background, it's not the event, it's not the arc or who you are today, it's who we're becoming. And that's the warrior story. So I want you to stop now. Again, no texting or watching this video while driving, please. And I want you to write your warrior story, make it no more than 20 or 30 seconds. And I want you to go tell someone. And I want you to see what happens between you talking about the event, the narrative arc, and what they do. And then I want you to work diligently on your ability to incorporate their aspirations, their desire, their relevancy into your warrior story. All right, guys, take a break here. Thank you.